giving him directions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's a whole team.
Quality assurance is supposed to be digging alone.
There's one guy digging and 10 guys teaching. Dr. Amru showed some slide which I should sometimes put in there. He has a slide of a contest between Saudi team and Japanese team, rowing. And of course, we know who came out ahead in that race, and then there are reasons for that. Because in the Japanese, it was the reverse. Most of the people were doing the digging and rowing, and there was 1 or 2 people giving the direction. But in the Saudi team, it was mostly the few people doing the rowing, and the rest were managing the whole thing. So this is a little, to brighten up the presentation a little bit. Bottom line, give me a motivated, inquisitive, interested student, interested, respectful, compassionate, competent teacher, guide, mentor, and if we need to change our educational system, the place to change it is when they are 3 or 4 years old. That's the time where you start, and you build in those traits which I talked about yesterday, and that leads to a change globally, basically, for the whole community. And there we have a lot of work to do. I have nothing against madrasas, I have nothing against these schools, but just rote memorization without understanding what you're doing, without integrating it with what's going on in the rest of the world, will lead to this bigger divide. The North and South divide will get bigger and bigger. Jazakallah, thank you for your attention. Okay. Any questions, any comments, Yes?
I think Muhammad Ali won the heavyweight championship 3 times.
3 times, yes, he came back 3 times, yeah. And sadly, I wish he had stopped earlier.
And he was my role model as well.
Oh, well, he's the, if you go to any part of the world, you will find that people identify him as an American by doing what he did. I mean, fine, Barack Obama is the current president, but 10 years from now, nobody will remember him. So he was an example of standing up for truth and justice.
Human rights.
Human rights, yeah, truth, justice. Any other? Yes, sir.
I think for us, like the community of teachers here, we should not dig alone. We need to get together. I believe so. I mean, all of us.
I think that's the message I'm trying to get across, because what I see in particular in every place, but more so in Saudi Arabia, there is this silo mentality. Now, it goes to the institutions. King Faisal is doing research. My son works here at King Khalid Eye Hospital. He's doing some basic, fantastic research in eye diseases. And he tells me that, you cannot interact with the folks in other institutions who are doing work which would complement and it would expand the reach. So whether it is institutional linkages, whether it is individuals, whether it's departmentals, we need to create that model. The way, for example, I'll give you a good example of this. I used to have the monthly Department of Medicine meetings. And one of the things I incorporated in the agenda, which was about quality assurance, the usual things you all do. I said each division, by rotation, alphabetical rotation, will tell us what they're doing. What are you doing? Okay. So one day the hematologist got up and gave his presentation. They were doing some hotshot stuff on coagulation studies. Okay. The infectious disease fellow got up, he says, this is what we are looking for. In our HIV patients, we are seeing so many coagulopathies. They didn't know what each other was doing. So this was an opportunity for them to get connected. So what I would suggest is developing something where all of you folks meet and try to kind of complement each other's work, and as a result, everybody benefits. It's a win-win situation. Yes?
Just a comment on the last words that you said. I think it's the primary basic education that brings the turnaround rather than the higher education. And I'll quote 2 examples from history. Seljuk dynasty, Alp Arslan is the person who defeated the Byzantine king and created this dynasty. He gave pot of money to one of his wazirs to raise an army because he had territorial
Expansion.
designs. And he said, the wazir said, don't ask me for 1 year, I'll bring you the army in 1 year, and then you can do whatever you have to. So when he called Nizamul Mulk was the wazir. When he called him after a year and said, where's the army, let's go out, conquer the world. He said, there's no army. I said, do you know what you're saying and do you know who you are talking to? He says, yes, I know. What have you done with the money? He said, I've built schools all over the country. Wait for 10 years. They'll produce soldiers whose arrows will go beyond stars. Second example, Duke of Wellington defeated Napoleon Bonaparte, and Napoleon was a larger than life figure still is, even though he was defeated at the end. At Waterloo, Duke of Wellington, who was an obscure noble man from Europe or England, he defeats him, and after the war, Napoleon is captured. Duke of Wellington is a hero. They asked him, how did you beat Napoleon and French army, or legions as they were known as? He said, I didn't beat him at Waterloo. England beat Napoleon when it made Eton and Harrow. Eton and Harrow are those two primary schools in London. So I think primary school, the seed is sown at basic education, and higher education is just a patch.
What's interesting, I'll give you a current example of this. What you're saying is absolutely true. The last election in New York City, the mayoral election, one gentleman said, I will invest huge amounts of money in pre-K. Bill de Blasio. People connected with that, and he won the election as an underdog. And he is now currently shifting lots of resources to just what you're saying, to pre-K, to education. And again, that's the time where you have the greatest impact. I mean, educational literature tells us that. And so by the time you get them in med school, many of the things are set. But again, we got to keep trying. Yes.
I have a question. Very enlightening presentation, I must say. My question is, and it's sort of like we talk a lot about the competencies that a person that like a healthcare provider or a physician should have, and we talk about being a medical expert, being an effective collaborator, communicator, both during your presentation, as well like a professional. And there are like 3-4 competencies which come from either ACDME or CANMETS, or there are different frameworks. My question is that in your own experience, what are your thoughts about which particular competency is really important for a professional, for a physician or healthcare provider to be an effective role model in front of his students or residents? Is it like of being a professional or being a medical expert or both?
I don't think they are mutually exclusive. Usually if one has one, there's a lot of it found from the other traits also. But I'll give you a practical example which I used to use when I was talking about medicine. I did a lot of work on fluoroquinolones and cephalosporins. And this question used to be popped up all the time. For pneumonia, what is your preferred drug? I said, look, all these things work. Or when I was a student for digitalis, which preparation to use? My advice at that time, and still exists, is learn one system well and be good at it, be the expert at it, and then you'll be able to be. One of the things I learned from Dr. Mileman, I used as a mentor. He brought me into his office one day. He says, "Look, you want to be a great scholar?" I said, "Yeah, Dr. Mileman, everybody likes to be great." He said, "Then become an expert on something where you're the world's authority." So instead of being a jack of all trades, just focus on a few. They all have good traits. I don't think one is better than the other or one is exclusive. They all touch the same basics. But as a faculty member, if I was doing it, it would be very difficult to learn all the systems. I would just zero in on one and then take it from there, and be the person where everybody would come to for advice regarding that system. So if you have a faculty of 5-10 people and each one is an expert in one area, so you have the core group which can address whatever competencies are being discussed. Already, this was the downtime. Now it's time to work. We'll see you later. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay.